resources in today's world are very difficult to get, very, very difficult. So please utilize what you have. Do your GMAT OG guide and come to these resources. They are really, really going to help you. Otherwise, every coaching institute, every GMAT coaching is going to charge you a bomb. You guys can go out and check it out. It's not that I'm making it up because I'm talking for them. It is actually that way. It is a lot of money that you have to shell. So if you have free resources, please leverage them.
So introducing Anita Kandela. She's right now in the ISB. And she's a dentist. She's a BDS, even MDS. So spent quite a lot of time in becoming a doctor, I think. And now she wants to go for an MBA. So what exactly is this change? If I spent, even I think you've done MDS. अगर BDS होता तब भी it was easy to digest that you're going for ISB. MDS के बाद तो we usually don't see people going for ISB. Why?
So I think when I was working as a doctor, so I was only doing the clinical bit of it, right? So when I would treat my patients, I realized that, the patient satisfaction comes from a lot of things. The only factor as a doctor that was in my control was just doing my clinical work. But there were a lot of other things like the operations in the clinic, the waiting time. Like, for example, if you go to a doctor, you'd never like to wait for a long time, right? You get very annoyed. So this is a very important factor, sorting out the operations of any healthcare system. So this is what I wanted to bridge. There was a big gap here, and hence the MBA, which is going to help me learn the business side.
So basically, you're saying operations management. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
But then also the question still remains: why an operations management guy needs to be a doctor for any healthcare?
So see, the whole point is that for me, I eventually, when I finished my MBA, and my long-term goal is to become an entrepreneur, I would want to start like a big chain of dental clinics, which is not like just one clinic. Maybe I want to do a pan-India chain of some 200, 300 clinics across the country. Hence, if I'm a leader, it's very important for me to understand these business aspects. I really need to understand the patient perspective, which I already know from so many years of studying and practicing. To understand the business aspect as an entrepreneur, it's extremely important to do this MBA. So
basically, in a way, you're saying you are dreaming big and big. That's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So see, right now more than 562 people are there, and we are expecting more than 1,000 it will reach. So 562 people have already joined. So these people, what they are actually is people who are into ISP aspirant, as well as the people who are even going for the GMAT. So GMAT people might be going for ISB or might be even going for Europe or maybe Harvard, Wharton, whatever they reach for. So what I would like you to do is थोड़ा सा इनको ज्ञान दीजिए and tell them in 10 to 15 minutes what exactly they have to do, and even introduce our free resources to them so that वो थोड़े free resources भी देखें, so that the people who are not able to spend so much money, they can straight away go to the free resources and do their preparation very well. Fine. उसके बाद we will start once more. Okay. So I'm switching off my camera as well as the audio, and the stage is all yours.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So, hi everyone. As he introduced me very lovely, in a very lovely way, I think I would like to first start with how my GMAT journey began. It began about 2 years ago. And as any other aspirant, I was just so overwhelmed with the number of resources. And usually, every person has their own perspective of looking at things. For me, since my childhood, I have been a hoarder of books. I love having a lot of resources around me. So that's the biggest mistake I made when I started with my GMAT prep. I think I had about 10 to 15 different type of resources, and I wasted at least 4 to 5 months figuring out from what to study from where. And then I finally spoke to one of my senior who also studied at ISB, and he told me that, please begin with the most basic resource, which is your GMAT OG guide. So for all of you, I think this is one thing that I would like to iterate. It's very important to do your GMAT OG guides very, very well. Anything that comes later is just going to build upon that. There's no replacement for your OG guides, right? And again, so many resources. How do you figure out what is good and what is not good? Once you are done with preparing on your GMAT OG guides, I would recommend you all to take one diagnostic mock test, which is the official mock test from the GMAT website. probably after 1 to 2 months of your preparation. That helps you to identify what are your weak areas and what are your strengths. So that's exactly what I did. I figured out what are my weak areas, and especially in those areas, I tried to build up on these extra resources which are there in almost like every website right now. But again, all of these burn like a hole in your pocket. So I think the platform, guys, EduShasta is doing really well. They have a lot of free resources here. And I think the link to all these resources is given in the description box. So you all should definitely leverage it in your benefit, because GMAT resources can be very expensive. I'm sure all of you must have seen that. So yes, one thing is start beginning with your OG guide. And I think the other thing that is very important is consistency, because this preparation really needs you to give some hours, devoted hours every day. So we all have something called as a muscle memory. Basically, the more you practice, the better you become at anything that you do, right? So the moment you give a gap in your GMAT prep, you are at a loss, because you will end up forgetting everything that you learned before, everything that you practiced before. Hence, consistency is the key. Try to devote at least 2 to 3 hours every day practicing whatever subject and however you've planned your schedule around it. Try to practice every day for 2 to 3 hours. So that exactly was my strategy. I was working, plus since I'm a doctor, we don't really have weekends off. So it was very hard for me, but I tried doing a 3 to 4 hours good prep every day until I gave my exam so that I didn't lose on my muscle memory. So, second thing that I would suggest is consistency. Third thing is practice, time practice, time practice. Again, I think you guys must have heard it so many times, but I can't tell you how important it is to time yourself when you're practicing, because on the exam day, you're so stressed, the environment is so stressful, and you already like so nervous that you end up losing time just because of the nervousness. And there's this constant stress of looking at the timer and solving your question. So you're already timing between two things, looking at the timer, solving questions, getting it right. It's extremely difficult. So even when you're practicing at home, you need to make an environment which is like an exam, so that you know what it feels like. Try to make it exactly like how simulated, exactly like how an exam happens. Make it extremely quiet in your room. Time yourself perfectly. Don't skip questions. Try to do everything and then see how you're performing. There are a lot of mock tests available. I would recommend you sticking to the official ones, because nothing comes as close to that. And if you want to use like other free resources, of course, these guys do like a brilliant job with that. So please, again, check out their resources on the website. I think apart from that, I would say if you are targeting ISB as your B school, you guys need to finish your GMAT at least 2 months before the application deadline. So you have good enough time to focus on your interview prep and your application prep, because ISB gives a lot of focus on your essays and your applications. It's not like any other business school where your application can be very mediocre and you will get in through, because ISB focuses a lot on knowing you as a person, how you are, what your personal traits are, what are your extracurricular activities, what are your strengths and your weaknesses. If you guys have had the chance to look at the previous essays, it's a lot about identifying your leadership qualities, what has made you the kind of person that you are today. So it's a lot of brainstorming. Like when you look at the topics, it feels like, oh, this is very easy. But when you actually sit and write it's very difficult to come up with anecdotes from your life where you have actually done something very significant, or otherwise there are like too many things and you need to pick between what has to be put on paper and what needs to be skipped. So give a lot of time to your application. That is extremely important, because without that, it's very difficult to get ISB. I know of people who have scored really brilliant in GMAT, but the application was not up to the mark. So, things didn't go the right way with them. So this is another important aspect I would like to tell you all. Also, so I gave a GMAT Classic Edition. Fortunately enough, the data insights section was not scored that time, but I have heard from a couple of people that the focused edition has become a little bit harder because of the data insights section being incorporated. But I wouldn't be the right person to comment on that because I gave the classic edition. But I think I'm open to answering any questions that you all have about ISB, about GMAT, about anything related to MBA in general.
So, Ankita, can you see the YouTube chat?
Not really. I'm not able to see
Straight
the.
away, could you straight away I can take the question from there. Should I pick questions from there?
Yeah, please go ahead, because I'm not able to see the.
One of the question, I think it's Mr. Darsh Kumar is asking, how will you use dentistry in healthcare management?
Sorry, how? Could you come again, please?
The dentistry, I'm saying, your specialization in healthcare management.
How would I use it? Is that the
How you will use?
question?
Yes, I mean,
how would I use it? So
the point is, you're going to be let's say, operation management of an hospital, which would be having every kind of specialization. So how exactly you're going to do this with your specialization becoming a strength of it?
So firstly, very good question. And as I think I mentioned in the beginning of this video chat also, my long-term goal is to become a dental entrepreneur. I've been in this industry and I've seen how unorganized this sector is in India. I mean, you all must have gone to dentists and you would have noticed how standalone clinics are. The basic hygiene measures are not good. They keep you waiting for hours together. This is a big problem in the dental industry, because of which patients are never satisfied. So this is a problem that I really want to solve. In the short run, I want to probably join a hospital, as you said, to understand how these big hospitals make their system so efficient, and then apply those learnings when I become an entrepreneur in a dental chain. Because in India, no other chain does this. I mean, there is a chain called Clove Dental. I don't know if you all have heard of it. That's the only big chain currently in India. But apart from that, it's a very unorganized sector. So yeah, I'll learn from healthcare industry in general and apply those learnings in the dental industry.
Ankita, one more thing. In GMAT, verbal has a lot of weightage. So the people who are weak in verbal, many of the people in India usually are very weak in verbal, and engineering background with a both weak for them. So how exactly what's your strategy? What kind of an advice you have for the people who are struggling with the verbal?
So for verbal, now I think the focus edition does not have sentence correction, but when I was giving the classic edition, there were 3 sections. There was sentence correction, critical reasoning, and RC, your reading comprehensions. So when it comes to RC, honestly, I think just stick to what is given in the official guide, because those are the exact kind of passages that you can expect in your exam. The strategy for RC, I can share what worked for me. What most of the people do is when they read their passage for the first time, they try to go into a lot of details. And that's not the right way to go about it, because you end up wasting a lot of time. So the best way is give a skim through the entire passage, get an overview of what the passage is trying to tell you, understand it, not the nitty gritties, just the overview of it. And then come back to your questions and then go back to the relevant paragraph that relates to it. Because if you start going into the details, you'll end up wasting a lot of time. So do your OGs, skim through the passage if that works for you. I that's the best strategy that I have figured out by trial and error. Third thing is try reading papers like Economic Times, your Economist, your New York Times. These are the papers from the US, and I think a lot of passages are picked from there verbatim. I have had, luckily, when I was giving my exam, I had 2 passages which were picked from there, and I had read them coincidentally. So, there are a lot of passages picked from there. If you have the time, go through them. When it comes to critical reasoning, I think that's again practice. There is no strategy to CR. You need to understand what the question is saying. You need to understand the premise, and you need to understand the question type. That's about it.
And basically, you've answered one very important aspect is the why MBA kind of a question. You've already answered it, but many of the people struggle with it. Now, there are more than close to 800 people right now. All of the people, you had a clear understanding of it. But let's say, what kind of a guidance you will give to all the other people that how to address the question of why MBA?
So, I think this is again a very important question, because if you are not able to answer this well in your interview, the judges and the evaluators will not like your application. So I think it's very important for you to identify your career trajectory. Okay, let me give you an example. For example, if you're an engineer and now you suppose you see yourself as a product manager or you want to get into that field. So you need to show the interviewers how you're going to bridge this gap with the help of an MBA. Okay. So first step towards it is identifying your career trajectory, where you see yourself a couple of years down the line. Do you see yourself leading a position? Because that's where MBA helps you, right? Otherwise, you can just be a regular engineer. There's nothing is going to change. So MBA helps you get a leadership position. Identify your career trajectory, fill in the gaps that are there between, and how your MBA, and particularly MBA from that school, because every school has a certain expertise. For example, I can talk about ISB. They are very good in consulting and product management. So if you are those people, one of those who wants to get into these two fields, you should target ISB. If you want to get into finance, ISB is not probably the best school for you. You have to look at other schools because you can't justify your answer with that. So look at what your target school is offering. Is it fitting the kind of requirements that you want in your career? That is the other thing that I would recommend you to do.
Now, one more question which I was looking at. I think you were also working at the time in departments of GMAT. So usually, all the working people right now would be having quite a work time होगा उनका 9 to 10 hours of working. So how they should be planning it? In even in your case, let's say, how did you do that? Because I think you had if you were working at that time, you had a very good time spending at the hospital or the clinic or whatever you were doing.
Absolutely. So I think time management is something which GMAT teaches you very well. So, as I said, there is something called as a muscle memory. So you really need to devote certain amount of hours every day, irrespective of whatever happens. अर्थक्वेक आ रहा है, कुछ भी आ रहा है, आपको अपनी 2 घंटे की 3 घंटे की पढ़ाई करनी ही करनी है. And if you guys are in the IT sector or corporates, I think you have one more advantage. You have your weekends off. I didn't even have that as a doctor. So, if you have your weekends off, try to cover up for the hours that you've lost during the weekdays, during your weekends. Put in some extra amount of time. I know you'll have to give up on your parties, you're hanging out with friends, but वो सब होता रहेगा. बहुत होती है ISB में parties. If any of you are coming to ISB, I can assure you of that. You're going to have a blast there. But please devote this time very carefully, because the sooner you finish your GMAT, the sooner you can focus on your application. Have a structured timetable, devote a couple of hours every day. You need to figure out what the right amount of hours is for you by trial and error, but do it every day religiously.
And Ankita, the last question from my side. How many doctors are there in your batch?
So ISB has 2 campuses, Hyderabad and Mohali. In Hyderabad, we are currently 4 of them, and I think Mohali has around 8 doctors. So you're going to a total of 12 people.
तो इस बात से डर नहीं लगता है?
बिल्कुल नहीं. Absolutely not. We have all come with very different goals. We are not even like intersecting at any point.
नहीं, फिर भी देखो, गोल होना और एक्सपीरियंस होने में फर्क होता है. I can have a goal that I would be reaching Mars. Let's say Pluto, the last planet. मैंने से थोड़ा डर नहीं लगता है कि why such a very small percentage of doctors are doing it. Engineers, so I think I don't have to tell you, सारा batch उन्हीं का भरा हुआ होगा.
Absolutely.
इंडिया में इंजीनियर्स तो बहुत मतलब परसेंटेज होता है. So फिर भी that's I think you are feeling fine about it.
I'm feeling fine. And like, as you said, I know the reason why most of the doctors don't do it. I think you covered it in the very beginning, that doctors spend so much time studying that after a point, they're like, yeah, but we want to just work and make some money. We don't want to, study again. So they have devoted so many hours in studying that one more additional course is definitely what they want to take. And most of them are very happy just doing a clinical practice. They don't have a entrepreneurship or ambition, or they're just happy कि मैं अपना एक clinic खोलूं और उसको चला लूं. उनको chain नहीं खोलना होता है.
वो in a way you can say वो गरीब रहना चाहते हैं.
That's what I would want to say, but ठीक है, if you want to take it that way. But हाँ, I think they are very happy.
One person only wants to be a doctor and the other person wants to own the hospital. So obviously the ambitions are very, very different. Now, you want to be the employer and they want to be the employee.
Absolutely. And I think India is moving so much towards entrepreneurship that it's just very natural to come, for it to come out my way.
Entrepreneurship is all about power.
Absolutely.
It's all about living the way you want it.
Absolutely. And I think if you want to make a change in the system, then you have to create a change. Baithe baithaye to nahi hoga. I'll have to take a step to create the change in my industry, right? So.
अच्छा, एक ट्रिक क्वेश्चन है. Last, name a doctor who, after doing MBA, is owning any hospital chain.
Name a doctor who is after doing MBA owning a
After doing
hospital.
management, is owning a hospital chain.
Okay, I know this doctor called Dr. Daran Shetty. I don't know if you know about him. He runs this chain of hospitals called Narayana Hospitals, which is very famous for its cardiac
Bangalore,
work.
Hyderabad, and all.
Yes, absolutely. So he, of course, has not done a full-fledged MBA like what I am doing, but he has done sort of some courses from Harvard because I had the opportunity to interact with him. So yes, I can assure you of that. He had done a couple of courses from Harvard and Kellogg's and the best of the schools across the country. And he himself has told me that it's so important to get a business knowledge in the healthcare sector because as doctors, हम सिर्फ patient करते रहते हैं हमें पता ही नहीं हो रहा कि what is happening on the business side. So I think he's the only one.
आपने ट्रिक क्वेश्चन को अच्छा मतलब you handle it. As a teachers ना we have a habit of being a devil's advocate kind of a thing. But it is good well. Okay, now we are ending the session right now. Send all for all the students. There is a free content, free videos, free even discussion forums, and a lot of content and videos are there. So what I would like every student is going to go to the videos description, and you can find each and every link. And even I think Ankita was also talking about it. And so, Ankita, any last words for the students so that we can wind up now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as Sir mentioned just now, I think all of you should completely utilize these resources. Trust me, free resources in today's world are very difficult to get. Very, very difficult. So please utilize what you have. Do your GMAT OG guide and come to these resources. They are really, really going to help you. Otherwise, every coaching institute, every GMAT coaching is going to charge you a bomb. You guys can go out and check it out. It's not that I'm making it up because I'm talking for them. It is actually that way. It is a lot of money that you have to shell. So if you have free resources, please leverage them. And I think all the best to all of you. Hope to see a couple of you at ISB maybe next year.
Ankita, it was great talking to you.
Thank you.
I would keep an eye on the LinkedIn profile so that whenever you're opening the hospital chain, I'll see you and even congratulate you. I would be the first person to congratulate.
That is so sweet. Thank you so much. Wonderful interacting. Thank you.